Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my channel if it is your first time here. My name is Jess. Today's video is going to be my October reading, no, not my October reading wrap up, we're in October, my September reading wrap up. So had a bit of a mixed reading month in September. 3 books I'm not going to talk about in too much detail because I read those for 2 separate reading vlog challenges which will be up very soon, so I'll just talk very briefly about what those books are about. And then I only read 2 other books and I finished one of the audiobooks that I was listening to, so probably a standard reading month for me, but I'm just not going to talk too much about the books that I read. So first of all, I'll talk about the books that I am not going to go into too much detail about because I'm going to include those in another video, so see if you can guess the themes of those videos from the books that I talk about. So the first one is Outlawed by Anna North. This is a historical fiction, western, dystopian, genre blending novel. We have a gang called the Hole in the Wall gang, which is basically made up of women who don't fit within this society for various different reasons. There was a flu pandemic that basically wiped out large numbers of the population, and as a result high value is placed on a woman's ability to have children, and if they can't have children or if they don't want to have children, then their value in society is diminished, and quite often they are then accused of being witches and are thrown out or imprisoned, thrown out of their communities or imprisoned, and quite a few of them make their way to this Hole in the Wall gang. And that's really all I want to say about it. Obviously I'm going to talk about it in much more detail in the vlog that it is in, but that is the first one. Next up we have The Wildflowers by Harriet Evans. This is a book which centres around family secrets, and we jump across various different decades. We follow one particular family. We have the parents who are both actors, quite famous and well-known actors in the 70s and 80s. We follow their children, we follow their children's children, and just various combinations of family members across the decades. We jump back into the 40s, we jump forwards into the 2000s and look at the impact of these secrets, what led to these secrets existing, etc, etc. So that's that one. Then we have The Bees by Layleen Paul. If this does not give you a massive clue about the theme of this particular vlog, then I don't know what will. This is a very strange book. It basically takes place within a beehive, and we're following a bee called Flora 717, and we look at the different hierarchies and structures within the beehive, and but it has a very dystopian feel to it, but it also has a very thriller-esque feel to it. You just are on the back foot about what is going on and what's going to happen, and there's kind of a dark feel, a dark vibe to the entire story. It's very atmospheric, it's very bizarre, it's very unique. I'm not going to say too much more about it. Okay, so then on to the 3 books that I can talk to you about in more detail. I obviously have not gone into detail about those because I would literally be repeating myself in the vlogs, so do look out for those. But first up we have Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. This is a contemporary about a struggling author called Finlay who is having a conversation with her agent, and someone overhears and they mistake her and think that she is a contracted killer, and so they contract her for a specific job of killing this person's husband, and Finlay then finds herself caught up in all kinds of unfortunate circumstances. I've really enjoyed this book. I came across it after Kayla from Books and Lala was talking about it, and I thought that sounds quite entertaining, quite easy to read, and it is. It definitely is an easy, entertaining, quick book to read and pick up and enjoy. The writing style is very good. It's a very engaging story. I liked Finlay as a character. You definitely have to abandon all rationale and reason when picking this book up. However, there are so many plot holes and plot points of convenience in order to move the story forward and ensure that Finlay can do what Finley has been contracted to do. And it's a bit ridiculous. If you look at it from a very pragmatic point of view, it's quite ridiculous. It reminded me in large parts of The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, quite a recent film. It's very, very similar in terms of its themes. It did the job. I wanted something that I didn't have to think about too much, that would be entertaining and hold my attention. It definitely did that, and it did it so well that I do want to continue on with the series. I could see this being adapted for like a Netflix show or something like that. It was just that side of silly, but also quite humorous, but also then it did have its moments where you felt quite sad for Finley. She's going through quite a difficult divorce with her husband, and just lots of different things are stacked against her, and you do find yourself rooting for her despite the ridiculous circumstances that she finds herself in. So yeah, definitely one that I would highly recommend if you want something with a little bit of mystery, something with a little bit of entertainment, you don't mind dead bodies. This would be a good choice. Then we have Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield, which was a reread for me but was my book club's choice for September. I actually remember reading this and thinking it was okay the first time. It was okay, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting, and I think that's because I had very recently read The 13th Tale by the same author, which is one of my all-time favourite books. I recommend it all the time. I absolutely love it, and so I went into this with really high expectations. By contrast, picking it up and reading it again, I knew that I hadn't enjoyed it, and so I didn't have such high expectations, but that meant that I really, really enjoyed the reread. I don't know whether it was a case of the fact that my expectations were so high, or whether it was just a case of it was the wrong time for me to read it the first time that I picked it up, but I loved it this time. It is so atmospheric, it is full of imagery, it's so captivating and engrossing and well done, and there's just all these little elements that blend together to make it such a wonderful story. And storytelling is very much at the heart of this book. We open with a dark, misty night in a pub on the River Thames when someone bursts through the doors carrying a child, and everyone in the pub thinks that this child has died, and then she magically, mysteriously, somehow comes back to life. And then we follow 3 different families who have all lost a child around the age of this young girl, and so we're exploring who the child belongs to, where she might have come from, what happened to the other family's lost children. So there's that kind of mystery element blended in with this beautiful storytelling, and I love the way that Diane Setterfield has written this book. It's very much like you are peeking in and she's telling you the story, so there are quite a few asides to the reader, which I really loved. It just is, it's so much more than I could adequately capture in explaining to you what it's about without ruining it, because I think it is the type of book that you go on for the journey. It's not fast paced, although there is this mystery element. It's not a page turner. It's very much based around the Thames, which forms the backdrop of it, and as such I think Diane Setterfield has deliberately tried to create this sort of meandering plot that very much fits with the setting and the themes contained within the book. It has some really wonderful characters. There are some that you like, there are some that you love to hate. She's just done such a good job of weaving this story and bringing it all together, and it's just so beautiful. And although the main storyline is about this young girl, there are lots of other things going on. So we have a little bit of a romance, and we get a little bit of family life, and we get this very sad story of this young woman who has had a very difficult life. We've got a little bit of feminism. Why can I not say feminism? We have a little bit of feminism in there through one of the characters who is a nurse. There's a whole lot going on and a whole lot to unpack and a whole lot to explore. Highly recommend. And then the final book that I read was The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. So this is a magical realism, paranormal fiction book about the family of Orchidea divina. So the Montoya family grew up in a home in Four Rivers, and there are lots of little interesting elements of their lives that they realise are a little bit different from other people. So the pantry never runs empty, and they have a cockerel that always seems to be reincarnated every time it dies, etc, etc. And these are just little nuances that they basically accept as normal. And then one day all of the members of the family are invited to Orchidea's funeral, but when they get there, first of all, she's still alive, and then she is transformed into a tree. And as she is transformed, she leaves several members of the family, 3 cousins in particular, with a gift. We flash forward 7 years later, and various things are starting to happen. Several members of the family are killed. It seems like the family is being hunted, and we basically begin to uncover that Orchidea may have done something in her past that is now impacting her current family. I don't know if that quite adequately describes everything that goes on in the book, but it sort of gives a gist of it. I really enjoyed this. It was very atmospheric. It has a dark side to it, which I thought was perfect for this time of year. I loved the cultural setting, I loved the magical realism, I loved the overall mystery. It was very difficult initially to listen to this book, and I would, I think, maybe like to go back and reread it in physical form, because when we are looking at the extended family members and how everybody interlinks and interacts with one another and their different relationships with one another, it is incredibly confusing to keep up with who is who. And although we predominantly follow the 3 cousins and their stories, there's still a whole lot of family dynamic to follow, and I did find that a little bit confusing when I was listening, and I would kind of be like, I don't remember. I'm doing this because I tend to listen to my audiobooks when I'm driving, but I would be like, I don't remember who that character is or how they relate to anybody else. You might only hear their name once or twice, but suddenly they're having an impact on a different character. So for that reason, I think it would have been easier for me to be able to then flick back to when we last met that character, and perhaps if I was reading it I might have absorbed that information a little bit more. But on the whole, I really enjoyed it. I don't actually know, as I'm talking, I'm about to tell you that I gave this book 4.5 stars, but I haven't given you the star ratings for any of the other books that I read, so I'm not going to give you the star ratings for the ones in the vlog. But just to kind of wrap it all up, I gave this one 3 stars, and I gave this one 5 stars, and then I gave Orchidea divina 4.5 stars. As I say, it was a very well told story, very atmospheric, but quite slow, I would say. Actually, it's not fast paced, it's not a page turner, although you are following this mystery and the cousins are sort of trying to discover how the magic in their lives and in their family history relates to them and what they can do with it. It's not a page turner, so I think that you need to go in knowing that it's quite a slow reveal in terms of then what eventually comes to light. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great for this time of year. As I said, very entertaining, and I liked the culture and I liked the setting. So I personally would highly recommend it. And that is it. They are the books that I read in the month of September. Do let me know what you read in September. Let me know what you're currently reading. I always love to chat more with you in the comments. But for now, thank you very much. Hope that you are all keeping safe and well. Take care, and I'll see you soon.